we would do a Christmas card, and I thought we'd use a digital saturated canary image. Now, just before I get into the actual image, etc., I did want to just say one quick little word about digital images, and just to make sure, because I know sometimes there's some confusion about who can use a digital image when you purchase it, etc. Basically, when you purchase a digital image, it is for your own use only. Now, usually the artist will allow you to colour in that image and sell on the card as a finished project, but you cannot, absolutely no question, print out several of the images and say, your neighbour comes round who also crafts and you hand her one to colour in. She has to buy her own. And I don't know if any of you actually know, but I am actually a lawyer, so it is something that I know about, and it is actually not only against the law, but it is actually a criminal offence. And I know that sounds really serious, but I think it is actually a serious issue because I think a lot of people obviously will innocently do this without thinking it's wrong, but what is happening is that it's affecting our beautiful artists so much that it's actually affecting their businesses, because obviously instead of people purchasing the images and therefore being used in the correct way, they are being just given out. And at the end of the day, the images aren't ridiculously expensive. And this is these people's business, and if it doesn't stop this sort of thing, then they are actually going to end up that we're going to lose these wonderful artists because they're not going to be able to afford to carry on as their business. And I think that would be a great shame. And so I really would like my lovely followers on here to kind of try and pass this message around a bit more as well, because I think it's important that we try and keep these wonderful artists available to us all. Anyway, enough of my soapbox for now, and on to what we're doing today. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm actually going to be playing around with one of the images slightly. Now, this is kind of why I kind of had that preamble, because again, when you play around with an image, technically you're not supposed to really do that because the artist has done the image as it is, but they usually give you some leeway, and I've actually in the past checked with Redonkadoodles and with Krista Smith, and they've always been happy, long as it's for my own personal use, not a card I'm selling, and obviously I'm not producing that image elsewhere, then it's not really an issue, and they've always been quite encouraging about what I've done to the image, and it's just slight changes as it is on this one. So just again, a word of caution on this. This I would suggest, if you're doing a card where you're making alterations to the image, don't sell them on, just use them for your own use. Okay, and if it's a major change, then I probably wouldn't do it at all. Okay, so what we're doing here is we've got Starla from Saturated Canary, and as you can see, she's really pretty. She's got lovely hair. I love colouring in the hair. Really cute little outfit, and what I loved was the little stars on her face, the sparkles. But I really wanted to do a Christmas card, and I thought that we could really make this work with her. So I have actually already made my alterations, but I thought that I would just go through exactly what I did, show you some of the elements. But if I did every single thing, although it's not difficult to do, it does take a little bit of time. So I thought it was easier to complete it and then just go over some of the elements of how I achieved those things. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was obviously to make her Christmassy, was I needed to look at this little moustache kind of mask thing that she's got. So I couldn't get rid of the actual stick, and I'm not too worried about that anyway to get rid of it. But what I can do is delete the moustache part on the stick and replace the top of it with something else. So let me just say also, sorry, before I carry on, this I'm using is Photoshop Elements. It's not a hugely expensive version of Photoshop. So if you haven't got anything like this, I would definitely recommend it if you're going to get more into digital images, digital papers, any sort of digital crafting. Now, bear in mind, digital crafting, and I'm going to be doing some more videos on this, does not mean you're doing everything on the computer. I see it myself as my own little factory, my own little print shop on my computer. I then print off my toppers, my papers, my sentiments, etc., all ready for me to do the crafting instead of going to the store and buying my papers, toppers, sentiments. So, you know, whether you get it from a store or whether you print it yourself, it's what you do with those elements that makes it crafting. Because I know there's a great thing that digital crafting is cheating. I really don't think that, and I think it really is how you use what you've got. So as I say, I've got Photoshop elements and I find it really, really useful. I use it all the time, but there's lots of photo editing type software. So and most of them have got sort of similar kind of functions. So if you've got something already, it may not be laid out exactly as my version here is, obviously if it's a different program, but I'm sure you'll have that feature. So if I tell you what each thing is called, I've got here, you can then hunt around for that feature on your editing Photoshop type editing software and work from there. But if you've got Photoshop Elements or Photoshop itself, then obviously this will be pretty familiar to you from the layout side of things anyway. Anyway, now going back to our image. So the first thing, as I said, is what I wanted to get rid of the moustache bit. So I just went on my eraser tool here. So I clicked on that. Now I've got a very big version here. So then we just go up to the top here, and it's got a button here for all different types of brushes. Well, I'm quite happy with what we've got there for my eraser, so I'll leave that as it is. But we've also got this here, which is the size. So we've got really teeny weeny, look, you can't even see it, right the way up to absolutely gigantic. It's so big it doesn't even fit on my page. So we're going to go to about a bit bigger than that. And also the size of the brush is often determined how close you've zoomed in, because I just used my zoom button here and zoomed in on that area a bit. So all I'm going to do is use my eraser and just erase that area. So I did all of that, and also by going smaller I was able to erase all in there, but so I kept her hair nicely. I used a slightly smaller one and just made it a lot neater. So I erase all of that, and then I also then needed to erase all this writing at the side. So then again, I've got my eraser tool and made it big, and then just went down and erased that. Now normally you might crop that away, but because I wanted to put something here, I needed this piece of white blank area, so I didn't crop it, I left it there. So then the next thing I needed to do, once I deleted all of that properly and all of that, was I needed to think about what could I put on top of this little stick as a replacement. Maybe something a bit celebratory or Christmassy. First of all, I found a lovely rose, but then I decided I found a really cute balloon on this one here, which is on Ava. So we've got Ava here, and what we need to do really is somehow grab hold of the balloon so that we can move it separately. Now you can see I've already done that, so what I'll do is I'll go over that again and just explain by going on another section of her. But what I've done is I've managed to grab that section and then I can move it. So this is how we did it. So let's again zoom nicely in, and let's go say on her little bow here, just as another example. It's fascinating when you get in, isn't it, because you can see some of the sketch lines. It's quite cool. So then we went to what we call a quick selection tool. Or you can have something else like a magic wand, but I like this quick selection tool. So again, you can change the size of your brush. I'm quite happy with it at the moment. And you've got up here the brush size, and then you've got a minus and a plus, so you want to add to your selection, or if you go too far you can delete a little bit off. So all you do is you go on the, I'm going to zoom right in because I always find it much easier. The closer you are, the better the selection you get. So then you just click, and as you click, it automatically, almost like a magnet, clicks round to the line, and then you can click on the next bit and it clicks. And there we go. Look, it's just clicking on. You can see the little dotted sort of moving line there. And can you see here now it's just gone a little bit too far? So we could either, now I'd recommend, you can, by the way, you can sort of move and keep going, but I tend to click and release, because then when I do undo, it only undoes that last piece. Whereas if I had gone and done all in one go by holding it like that, I'd have to, it would undo, and it would undo the whole lot, which would be really annoying if you'd got most of it right. So what I find is, if you got a little bit more detailed, and it keeps going past where you want to be, you can do several things. You can make your brush smaller, but also zoom in, and that always helps. So if we edit, undo that, so you can now see we're just a little bit on that line, we're going to zoom in nice and close. And you can see also when you've now zoomed in, which is something else you need to look for, this one here, that dotty line that's moving, is on the outside of our black line, which is what we want because it will pick up our drawing line. But as we get around here, it's on the inside. So as I moved it like I did that balloon, it will move, but it will leave the line behind, which isn't really helpful to us. So we're going to go back to our quick selection tool. Now clearly that's miles too big now, so we're going to see where it says diameter. We're just going to make that a lot smaller, maybe 10. That's still probably a bit smaller than that even. Perfect. So then we're going to go in there. We're just going to very gently click, and you can see sometimes it looks like it's trying to work out exactly where to go, but you can see that bit now is on the outside of that line, which is what we need. That was just a bit too far. So it's going past it. You can see where it flips out, and it's kind of going past. It's thinking, where do I want to go to? And then it comes back. So by zooming in, you can get a lot better. Now you can see again it's gone past that. So we're going to tidy that up in a minute with our minus tool. So you're basically just going around doing this nice and carefully. And as I said, if there's like a little piece like here, you don't necessarily want to keep undoing, so you could use your minus tool, which is minus the selection, and then you're taking it just goes backwards away from your tool, from your click, rather than that, so it will click in to the next nearest piece. You just go until you get it exactly where you want it. So you just keep fiddling around until you get it just as so. I won't finish the rest of that bow. And then what I did was, obviously with the balloon, but if I show you, when you click on it, you get a little box around it, and when you move it, look, it comes away, and you've got your little bow in this case, or part of your bow, because I didn't get it, and you can see where some of that line still stayed behind, but we've got enough of it there. So that's what I did on the balloon on here. And let me just zoom down. What you then can do is you can use your selection tool here, which we grab. You grab that, it's actually grabbing the balloon as well, and you can just slide it across like that to the other picture. So you're grabbing it on here with your selection tool to move it. You don't let go. You drag your mouse down to the picture that you want to put those elements on, which is our Starla. Well, I'm going to just drag it over. It's actually that one, because that other one was my finished one. So we drag it onto there, look, and you can see it opens up that window when I drag it there. And there's the balloon, and also our little bit of bow. So then all I did was I placed the balloon where I wanted it. Just ignore the bit of ribbon for now. I resized it to whatever size I wanted, and also I would have maybe twisted it by just grabbing that little button at the bottom there, just to angle it differently, making sure it lined up as best as possible. I didn't want it to overlap her hair or anything, so I placed that on the top of my little stick there. Now it's not necessarily perfect because I would have done it nicer. So then the next thing that I needed to do on there was I did exactly the same thing, but I did it on this little girl called Ugly Christmas Sweater. And I grabbed, you can just see if I zoom in, I wanted her little bag of candy cane, but what I didn't want was the line here, this zigzag line, that selection tool line, to go right up to her sock, because I didn't want a lined edge. So you can see if I come off it, well, it probably won't show until we go on to the actual drag it onto something, but what I didn't want was any line here. So all we've got there is the selection tool line, but effectively it's a white edge, there's no drawing line, because if we had a drawing line there, because this edge was going to show, it wasn't going to look right. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to drag it across to my picture, and I wanted it to be a lot bigger, so let me just zoom in. So whoops, a little bit too close, there we go. So I positioned it, I needed to make it bigger, probably not that big, and then I fiddled around making it bigger to try and get the handle kind of in her hand, and also I actually made it bigger than this, so that this, like that piece there of the bag, touched her bow, so it looked like it was carrying on, because I didn't have quite enough. And then I fiddled as well, so that piece went behind her dress, so it looked correct. So basically you just fiddle around until you get it just right, but you can see now what I mean about if I'd had a line there, it would have made it difficult, because I'm basically giving this illusion that the rest of the bag is finishing behind her leg. So and then you just click the cross and it's kind of in her hand. But as I said, and obviously we've got this bow here, and it's a bit more messy, but I'll show you the finished look. So I fiddled around and put that in her bag, in her hand, not in a bag. So then the next thing, and the last thing I did on my image here, whoops, is I wanted to add some text to the balloon. So I clicked on my text tool, and I then clicked text, and I typed, in this case, the word Noel, and need it a bit bigger than that. So let's put it to 60. And then I needed to click on it out of text to my selection move tool there, so that the box came around it, and then I needed to right click on my mouse and say bring to front. Now that's important because my balloon is a layer on my picture, and what happens is if this isn't at the front, the balloon actually, when you drag it over the balloon, it hides behind. Let me undo move and undo bring to front, and I'll show you. Look, the Noel hides behind the balloon. Now I could click on my balloon and say send backward. That should work just as well. Oh, backward, back, send to back, and that will have the same effect. So either way, we need to do that. Then I needed to just turn this on the rotate to give the angle, so I did that and click the tick, but I still wanted it to have more of a curve, because if the writing was on the balloon, it would curve around the balloon just here. Sorry about those. So we're going to click on that as a text, and we've got a little feature up here which will allow me to shape. It's called create warped text in this instant. So I click on that, and it's a style, so we're going to click on that, and we want an arc. So you can see already we've arced balloon. Now clearly that's the wrong way, so the bend here says plus 50%, so I went down, I think I went to minus 25%, and you can see how it's arced it around now. So then press OK, and it gives an illusion that the balloon is shaped, and therefore that the text is going around this shape of the balloon. So I thought that looked a lot better. So as I said, I did all this a little bit neater, but those were the techniques I used. So here is the actual finished design of the actual the one that I fiddled around with a lot more. So you can see how it's much neater on her hair and all of that kind of thing, and the bag I think looks a much better fit than I did just now. So that is our finished design, and I think it looks really fun, and I think with the stars on her face that is really cool for Christmas as well, and I definitely can see the glitter pot coming out for this. So the next thing now I'm going to do is print this out on a piece of lovely white cardstock. Okay, so for printing out purposes, you've got two options. You can print from your Photoshop or Photoshop equivalent and do it through that way, or you can also make sure you save this, save as, and make sure it's a JPEG or PNG, whichever. Save it, and I just changed it to Starla Christmas. Make sure you do save as and change the name, because you don't want to save over your original picture, because then you'd lose your original image and that would be really annoying. So make sure you, as I say, do save as and definitely change the name. Okay, so we did that, so that's fine. It says, do I want to replace it, because I've already obviously saved it as Starla Christmas, and that's now as a JPEG. So we could then open up the pictures, which are down here. Lots of, here we go. Right, Starla, let's go down. Where is she? Wrong way, fingers work. I bet I'm going past her a million times. Oh, see? Right there, looking at it. So there's my Starla Christmas image. So we open that up just like normal. In Windows, it comes up in the window Photoshop viewer, and you can print, whoops, shut that down while we're here, and you can print from there as well. So now from here, you've got a few less options on sizing. Because you have like the full page, you can click on 2-page. I always uncheck this fit frame, because I think sometimes it doesn't do it fit in properly, and I don't like that. So you can do it like that, but that's still quite big. You've got that size, you've got 4, but as you can see, it's a little bit more restricted, but it's still a good option, and it's a quite nice simple way. And if you wanted to, you could even print 4 on one page, for example. So you could print out 4, you could have a couple of practice ones, and do a couple of cards or whatever. So you have that option. Or if you're in Photoshop itself, let's just close that bit down. Okay, so that in order to print out Starla from my Photoshop, it's much simpler to get your sizing how you want it to be. So what I would do is I would open a new blank file, and I would think, well, I'm going to be making an A6 card, say, in this case. So I'll open A6, blank file, okay, and then that would be like my card front. So I know that's going to be the size of my card front. So then I'll drag Starla across and drop it into the picture, into my blank page. And then I can grab that corner and I can size her to what I think would be a nice size on my front of my card. Then the next thing you need to do is go to File. I've lost print, there it is, print. Now you can see it's automatically centered the image, but if you wanted it to be more economical with the paper or the cardstock, because it's going to print out on A4, so I'm going to actually move that down into the corner. Okay, I'm actually going to move her over just a little bit so that then it gives me some space around, so that I can be sure that it's where I want it to be. So that's all good, happy with that. And then all I would then do is connect my printer, which I'll do in a minute, and just check my printer preferences. So what I want to make sure for me, because it's cardstock, I will be having it from, I've got two loading, I've got a rear tray and a cassette. So with my card, I put it in the rear tray. So I need to make sure it collects from there. Page setup, I want on borderless, don't want it on that, so click OK. It doesn't have to be borderless with this because it actually isn't necessarily going right close to the edge, so that's not probably going to be a major problem. Press OK, and then oh, it's gone to the center again, and move her back down, and then click on print, and we're ready, and it will start printing out. So I coloured Starla in using my Copic chows. I had a few separate in a bag, and I thought that it would be fun to use those for a change instead of the sketch. So I will insert a picture now that shows you the set of colours that I used to colour her in with. Okay, so now we're going to put her to one side and we're going to start making the actual card itself. So what I've got is a apertured three-fold card here, and it's matching envelope. It came like that, so I didn't have to make it, but if you did, it's a simple one to do. You can just put your aperture in, and for what I'm going to be doing with the card, you don't actually need this piece, so you could just do it on a normal card and don't have to have this piece at all. You could do it without that piece, so that's not a biggie. So what we're going to now do is we're going to put some paper in on here, and then we're going to add in Starla and everything. So I've taken this paper pack from Anna Griffin. This is her Emerald Forest collection, her this year's Christmas collection, and it's got some really gorgeous patterns in it. If you want a bit more kind of a look at the patterns for these, then go back. I've done a haul video and it'll show you a lot more detail of that pattern paper. So anyway, I've got this particular one, and this I think will just sit behind this card here, this aperture here. So that's why I said you don't necessarily need this extra flap, because you can quite easily sit that behind and stick it down. You could make it and then put another piece over, or make it a whole piece so it looks neat and tidy, so you don't need this other piece over the top. So I'm just going to take a little bit off the side to make sure it fits, because I thought it would fit in but it doesn't quite. Okay, so that will then sit nicely just behind that aperture. So I think the easiest thing to do is actually make use of this flap, and we will pop that on there, and I will do it using some of my wet glue, I think, some gel glue, so that I can move it around, and that just gives me a little bit more time because I want to make sure it's in the right position. Now I'm not going to do this thickly or anything, I'm just going to do a nice thin layer so it holds it in place, but not gives it, we don't want any dimension. Okay, and then just making sure which way up it is and that I've got the right side of the aperture to make sure the card folds. Yep, it's this side we want, so I'm just going to pop that down there like so, and then we're going to flip that over, and then I can take advantage of my adhesive being wet and just fiddle around until I'm happy with the positioning. So I want it so that it's central here and straight, and also that these pieces are kind of central as well. And I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to take and I'm just going to run all the way on this actual flap here, all round the edges and round the actual aperture, so that it's nice and stuck down. Okay, so plenty of adhesive on that because I want to make sure it stays stuck. And then I'm going to just, have I done it right? Yes, I have. I was upside down, that's why. Right, thought I panicked then. Thought I'd done it the wrong way around. Okay, and then that's then stuck together as one element, one card. Okay, so now we want to get Starla herself. So we need to put on the back of her and the little balloon that came off, and you can see where the ink comes through. That's perfectly normal. We're just going to get our glue gel. Now I get asked a lot about the glue gel. It's called pin flare glue gel, and I know that a lot in America cannot get it, but just all I would say is just watch this space. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I promise it, hopefully you'll think it's worth the wait. And I want a bit of height on this, so putting quite a bit of the glue gel on. There we go. Okay, and then we need to very carefully pick her up and turn her over. And I forgot I had the glue on the balloon. I just put my finger right in it, but we'll leave that alone for now. Actually, I need that at the same time because we need to position her with the balloon in mind. And that's it, because we wanted it to obviously look like it was still attached. And we'll get one of Daisy's hairs off there. So as you can see, I'm putting a little bit more height than perhaps I would normally do, just because I thought it would be a bit fun. And try and keep her straight. And I think that looks okay. So now I'm just going to, while that's just doing its thing, I'm going to take my gloss accents. Okay, so now just going onto her eyes, and I think it just gives a really nice look to just finish the face when you do that. And then just a tiny bit, sort of more thinly, well, that was the plan, on the lips, but also I want a little bit on the little candy canes down here, because I think that'll just make them look a little bit more kind of realistic as well. I don't know if you can catch that in the light. There we go. And then I was going to do it on the balloon, but I think I'll leave that alone. And then I'm going to get my glitter glue. And I was trying to decide between my silver glitter glue or my stickles, crystal stickles. With the silver, I think, just as a bit of fun. So let's just add sort of bigger blobs where there are bigger blobs, and then just some tiny little dots along her face here. Like so. So that's going to look really pretty, and when that dries you'll see that much better. And then we're going to add some on the star here as well, and then a few dots just around, because you can see it's on her dress.
like so. And then I think just a little on these dots on her shoes as well. Well, the sort of top of her boots really, I suppose. Not too much, because I don't want to hide the green underneath. There we go. Let me show you, sparkling away there. And I think that looks good. And just one more thing I want to do is actually on the band on her hair here, there was sort of like band where she's got her ponytails done, and I wanted to just add in as if they were bands. It's all nice and pretty and sparkly. And then I think she would have, oh, I think that's fine, I'm happy with that. Okay, so we'll leave that now. So the next thing I've got is this gorgeous Anna Griffin sentiment that came from her Christmas set. I think it was something like Banner Collection or something like that. And this says it's the most wonderful time of year. And I thought that would just look really pretty just down the side there. And it's self-adhesive, so you just need to peel off the back. I'm just going to pop that like so. And I think that looks really nice on there. And then I've got some tiny little green crystals which I want to add to her face as well. Okay. And then I'm just going to take that one and put it just on here, which is where the main kind of star was on her face. There we go. So I think that looks really pretty. And then I think what I want to do is put some gems in the corners. I'm just looking, I've got some nice round ones here, and I think they would be really nice in each of the corners. So let's just start in the top corner, because that's the one that's going to be more fiddly because of the position of the flags. Okay. And then down in this bottom corner I want to put 3 little gems. So I'm going to start in the corner still, but I'm just going to add 2 more going horizontally. There we go. Whoops. And I'm just thinking about putting a little bit of icicles around the edge of our aperture here, and actually on our balloon as well. I think that would look nice on the balloon. Just do it nice and thinly. So I'm just using my finger so that the balloon is nice and thinly glittered. And then I want to go around the edge of my aperture very carefully here. And then I just want to go down the edge of my banner here with the silver. Again, just to almost give it an edge. Lots of sparkle and glitter, and I'm just wanting to have a look at whether we need anything on the actual sentiment, but I think we'll leave well alone. So here's the finished card. I'm just trying to hopefully get you to be able to see all the glitter that's gone on, and that will dry a lot flatter. When it's all dried off, it'll go a lot flatter than it is at the moment. Okay, so here's our finished card. I hope you've enjoyed making this with me. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the process that we had of making those minor changes to Starla using our computer, and I hope you like the finished look. I'd love to hear your comments, and I will speak to you all again soon. See you soon. Bye.